Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Cohn, and you're watching the DMLC Racing Channel. Tonight, we have a very special guest, the one and only Candyman, Mr. Dustin Wardlow. Dustin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And of course, that means we're doing the third episode of The Heart of Lionheart with Dustin today. So, Dustin, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from. Just kind of give us a general intro.
Yeah, well, my name is Dustin Wardlow. I'm from Bakersfield, California. I've moved away a few times, but I was born and raised here, more or less. And a lot of people maybe not familiar with Bakersfield other than the bad rap we get on TV, but it's the home of, like Rick Mears, Kevin Harvick, um, Corn, um, Buck Owens, Merle Haggard, like tons of people are from here. It's kind of funny, but they all just can't wait to get the hell out. But I love the community. It's really good. Kind of close to everything here. It's good stuff.
Nice. Oh, speaking of Rick Mears, just for you today, man. There you go.
What do we hold on a second? Oh,
Yeah,
nice, man.
yeah,
Right
just
on.
for you. I knew you were a
I
big
need one of
fan,
those.
so. Oh yeah, I was a Vista print. I'll get you the info after, but yeah, I
Right
actually had
on. I
that
dig it.
custom made, so I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Ah, sweet. I do, man. So yeah, yeah, Rick Mears, man. It's as far as what we do and for my childhood and stuff, he was the deal. He's a deal.
Oh man. Now, I know you were a part of a Volkswagen car club, but what exactly got you into cars, that whole kind of hobby?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think I was into cars as long as I can remember. There, I don't remember a time where cars weren't kind of a part of my life. I think I was probably I was cutting my teeth at the drag strip here. We have a drag strip called Formoso. It's kind of world famous. So I had a friend come from Australia to visit us once, and he just couldn't wait to get there and check it out. And so anyhow, grew up out there watching my pseudo uncle race, and my parents were into cars, and it was just kind of the lifestyle back then too. Cars were auto racing and was iconic back then. It was everything. It was everywhere you looked. I couldn't watch the monkeys on TV without them having a street ride, and the monsters with Dragula and the monsters coach, and I mean, cars were just everywhere. So I've been a fan for as long as I can recall.
Oh, that's awesome. It's funny you mentioned the monkeys because I remember that GTO with the blower and everything. That
Right?
was
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
Stretched out. Yeah, yeah. And those guys too that were creating those things, I later on got to meet through the person who put together the car club, George Barris, Ed Roth, Rat Fink fame. Those guys who's I had collectible cards when I was younger. That Tops and Don Russ used to come out with cards that would feature all of their artwork or their special concoctions and things. And I wore all the T-shirts and everything. And so later in life, it was cool to get to meet those guys before they passed. But yeah, it's always cards, man, always.
That's awesome. Now, one thing that's really interesting about you, we've kind of discussed this before, but you have this crazy cool career where you wear like five or six different hats. So, why don't you tell us a bit more about it? Because you do some cool stuff.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a culmination of everything I've ever done. So when I was younger, and I had like 4 paper routes. So I had to learn how to, manage a little bit of money and get money out of people. Like they were famous for ignoring you and closing doors in your face as you go to collect for the paper. And with 4 routes, I really didn't have much personal time. And so then that kind of created a little bit of work ethic, and I slacked off later in life. But I ended up falling into artwork. My first piece of artwork that I ever did. I do a little bit of graphic design and create a logo when I was 12 or 13. My dad set me up with that deal, and they still use it today, almost 40 years later. And so I knew that was of interest. Took a graphic arts course, and they taught you a little bit about business. And I got a ton of accolades and made the local news and got awards and things there. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do, but I ended up landing in retail and worked my way up. Started at a video retail store chain that had 2 stores, and we ended up being the 5th largest in the United States. And so I ended up getting a lot of retail management, marketing experience, and things like that. The founder of that deal, my mentor, was Entrepreneur of the Year for Orange County in 1990. And so it was kind of worked out there. So I learned a lot, and then I continued some self-education after video stores kind of went by the wayside, and kind of reinvented myself at age 40. Started learning to code websites. Up until then, I had just been doing the artwork, and everybody else had been making all the money slicing and dicing these things back when you had to do that. And so anyhow, started kind of getting back into the t-shirt thing too. And I got hooked up with a local candy shop here called Dewar's Candy Shop. And they're kind of known everywhere, all over the world. And we, I did some t-shirts for them. And then that led into the web design thing and managing the website. And then now I spend my days doing analytics, writing ad copy, handling customer complaints, managing the website, the database, doing artwork, photography, product photography. I mean, I just about everything I've ever touched or done in life ended up being a part of what I do now. So that was a lengthy explanation. I apologize.
No, no apologies needed. And let me tell you, the wars, the candies, those taffies are addicting.
Aren't they
So,
amazing, man? Yeah,
you,
it's funny. They're like they're taffy. We can't call them anything else. That's what they are, but they're not like anything else you've ever had. Like it's they're really unique. We celebrity, they've been on the red carpet, been featured in Food Magazine and on TV and stuff. It's they're fantastic. You know, I love them. Good thing to send out as a gift for the holidays for sure.
oh, definitely. Now, what got you into gaming?
Well, I, Pong, I guess Pong. I was around when the very first game came out. My dad went down to Kmart and bought the console unit, you know, that sat on top of the TV. And all you really did was Pong. You had two controllers with a wire and a little wheel that moved around. And that was it. You could change the size of the bars of the thing. You know, everybody knows what Pong was. Um, so anyhow, and then being young in the 80s, you know, that was kind of all there was to do. Go somewhere to an arcade, play Pac-Man and Galaga and, you know, all those things. So, but I don't really game anymore. I get my racing fix because I'm a huge race car enthusiast, and racing. I get that on the iRacing um, platform, but I don't like do a lot of games or anything typically. I enjoy a good MMO, but there hasn't been a good one since I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, something called Ultima Online that I used to do. But it's just my preference. I like things that are extremely detailed, and there just isn't anything like it anymore. So iRacing's it. That's all I do.
Oh, definitely. Now, we already kind of discussed Rick Mears, but I'm curious, what kind of got you into the whole auto racing and then kind of IndyCar as well?
Yeah, well, whenever I was growing up, the Indy 500, the month of May was like a holiday at my house. It seemed just for some reason, like the family latched onto it. It was something that we all got. My mother was a huge racing fan as well. It wasn't just my, you know, the guys in the family, and so we'd watch the Indy 500 regularly. And I used to have, you know, little plastic cars, AJ Foyt and you know, tons of others. My folks got to meet and have breakfast with Johnny Rutherford one time. So like all the like little tiny things that just kind of instilled this, like it's magic, you know, to me. And so yeah, grew up watching the Indy 500. Later on, through going to meet George, founder of Lionheart, and staying at his place in Chicago. He took me over to Indianapolis. I got to kiss the bricks. It was a bucket list thing. I was really appreciative. But then, you know, when Rick Mears came into the scene, it was it was crazy for me. Like nothing makes a kid um, dream more or feel like he can accomplish more than when somebody from your hometown who grew up on the same streets, went to the same local dives for a burger, makes it that big and wins Indy. And then there was something to do every year. And it took it to a whole other level. So Rick Mears was kind of, a person for me. I think probably the only person I've really ever idolized as far as a celebrity goes or whatnot. I've had encounters with a few, but Rick Mears is just one of those guys. He's just always super cool attitude and stuff. Everything's ever been written about him, and I'd like to meet him, hang out someday. But yeah, being from Bakersfield, it kind of really ramped up my enthusiasm for the sport.
Oh man. So quickly, I have a bit of a Rick Mears story actually,
Oh,
because
cool.
I used to have an airport job, and I knew that because of the Sonoma IndyCar races, he was coming in. I didn't have the chance to meet him per se, but as he was driving out, I saw, oh my God, it's Rick Mears. I waved, and he was like the only out of any of the IndyCar drivers that came to acknowledge me. So I was
Right
like,
on. Oh,
that
love
was
it.
just like bucket list check. Rick Mears, racing hero. There we go.
Years ago, the local Chevrolet dealership had given Rick Mears an anniversary Corvette in yellow, and my dad managed the parts department at the dealership at that time, and he called me up. We lived down the way, and he's like, "Dustin, you got to get down here. Rick Mears is supposed to be here." And I was like, "Awesome!" So I went down there, and I shook his hand and then cowered away. Like I was, I think I might have been 13 or something like that. 14, and yeah, I just didn't know what to say to the guy, but I wish I had time to hang out now. Maybe we'd have something to discuss. Maybe we wouldn't. Maybe I'd just geek out again. I don't know.
That's awesome. Now, we've already discussed iRacing a bit, but I'm curious, how do you find out about sim racing? And did you start with any sims before iRacing, or is that basically the primary one?
Yeah, no, I tried. So I remember with my first custom built PC, I think I've been a fan of Papyrus ever since they came out with, and I think Sierra ended up buying the NASCAR franchise and stuff. So I tried both of those out, but I think I might have only turned 40 laps on any of those, you know, issues prior later, like just because I just had a spring loaded wheel and pedals. Sometimes I'd drive with a keyboard, before I had that of it. And I just couldn't get into it. Years later, I got it. The whole reason I bought an Xbox was because Forza came out. It was supposed to be the most realistic thing for. I did the same thing with PlayStation when Gran Turismo came out, but yeah, no, I found out about iRacing watching. I think it was the Talladega 500 or maybe Daytona 500 or something, and they had an ad on there with Dale Jr. And I was like, I gotta try this out. So I had a laptop that I used for work, so it was quite competent, and I installed it on this with a 17-inch screen, and got an Xbox controller that plugged in like and used that. And I think I got to D class with it, or C class maybe even, before I decided to go ahead and plug it into some monitors and then get a wheel and now I have this crazy rig that, people don't spend this much on a wedding. It's just crazy, but it's my only hobby. So I've really latched onto it. There's nothing like it. I love the licensing aspect, and I like the iRating. Everything just kind of keeps you kind of matched up to people that you belong with at the time. And it's a struggle sometimes. I get it. I don't do a whole lot of public sessions anymore now that I found Lionheart, but still there's just nothing else that really I enjoy doing as much as iRacing. The sim racing thing is just kind of over the top for me. It really brings it home.
Oh, no kidding. Now, since you mentioned Lionheart, how did you end up joining?
Yeah, so I was in a series called Socks Out um, several years ago, and I was on a team called Keystone Motorsports, and so there were some great guys in there, and in addition to the individual who accepted me into there, there were other people springing up. Scott McLaughlin was in that group, and we ran a endurance race together. And there was another guy. I'm gonna forget his name right now, but he was kind of like the front man for a big hair band called Cinderella, and he co-wrote She Bop with Cyndi Lauper and run around with Kiss and stuff like that. We would just sit around and race stock cars and do nothing but goof, and it was a good time. So, but that translated into this series where we were racing stock cars around road courses, and I think Christian Challoner and a few other guys were in that too. That were outstanding. Some of the guys that we raced with actually were in that, and then I think we were being broadcast on GSRC, and after one of the races, Sean Ambrose asked me, he's like, "You're from Bakersfield, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Do you happen to know a guy named Jason Galvin?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, that guy wakes me up every morning, man." He was a local news anchor, and that was the channel that we watched, NBC, in the mornings, and we get our local news before the Today Show came on. So he was on TV every day, and so I knew who he was. But he's like, "Yeah, he races in a league called Lionheart." So I was like, "I got to check it out." And so I ran in the Challenge Series, and ended up meeting up with Jason, and we became really great friends. We, feels like family, and then George, and all of these guys that I've gotten to meet and meet up with still in Iowa. Like it's just crazy. This league. I'm so happy that Sean asked me that years ago and asked me if I had heard of Jason and pointed out Lionheart to me, because this is what's kept me in the hobby. I probably would have packed it up a long time ago had it not been for this league. Back whenever I was getting licensed up and everything, before I found Lionheart, I would walk away for months at a time, come back for a month, get frustrated with the public stuff, and then miss it and have to come back again. So this has been a real blessing. Yeah, Lionheart's pretty awesome.
Oh, no kidding. Now, I'm just curious, are there any moments or memories that kind of stand out either from sim racing in general or Lionheart, just your time racing in that league, of course.
Yeah, prior to Lionheart, it was just about. I was still coming into contact with some great people, meeting some really cool guys that were just there to have fun. And Lionheart, same situation. I mean, I really love going out and meeting everybody. There's more people showing up every year in Iowa, and I think I would be remiss if I didn't say my fondest attachment to this series and to iRacing in general was my 50th birthday party, which you were at.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was incredible, right? So talk about a close bond with people that they're people came from states away. I met some new people at my 50th birthday party that I had never met in person. I only knew through the sim, and they traveled all the way out here to visit. And some of them I'd seen in Iowa before, some of them I'd never met. Chris Lanini is one of those I hadn't met. I hadn't met you before.
Yeah.
Lanini actually drove all the way home back to where did that night, like the night of
Nevada.
my
Nevada, I think.
Nevada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that is a solid guy. I don't know, but I just, I get a little bit emotional every time I even think about it, because that meant a lot to me, to have all those guys show up and stuff. It's just, but that's how this league rolls, man. There's just great people. It's good.
Oh, absolutely. No kidding. That was very special, and I'll never forget that either. That was amazing. Now, I have to ask, outside of racing, do you have any interests, anything exciting?
Well, I'm not sure if you're asking about the singing thing or not, but I do a little bit of that on just for kicks. I really enjoy it. It's a blast. It's not big enough to say it's a hobby or anything, so I can't say that. But yeah, I like to play a little campfire guitar, nothing good, and sing, and do that. Hang out with my grandkids as often as possible when I'm not working, and play a lot of poker and drink a little bit of bourbon, and just guy stuff, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
no, that's great. Now, since we mentioned Jason Galvin, he had a question for you, which is who is your biggest musical influence?
Oh yeah, well, sure, man. My biggest, that would be hard to. That's a hard thing to answer, actually. Um, when I was younger, it was all about classic rock. I come from a huge country community here in Bakersfield, with Buck Owens and all. I even worked for him for a little while at a place he had called the Kern Shopper. It was kind of a penny saver type publication, and I did layout and paste up there. But anyhow, music. Um, my mother used to watch Name That Tune. She used to, every time the radio would come on, who's this, who's that, who's, kind of got my education right quick. And a lot of oldies and stuff back then too. And oldies as far as what they really are, like 50s
Oh yeah. Oh
music.
yeah.
I've heard things from my generation be called the oldies lately, and I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, no, and then so all the 70s was more or less listening to what my parents listened to, and that grew on me. I'm latched on. I love Led Zeppelin. I love Rolling Stones, tons. And then during the 80s, whenever I was a teenager, I was pretty much finding my own stuff. I was trying my best to find music that was off the beaten path. I didn't like a whole lot of top 20 stuff. Usually that was my biggest deterrent. If something was top 20, it was already, I didn't care for it. So just a lot of stuff. And back then it was everything from punk to, rock and roll, and some, new age, new wave. Lot too many influences to list, honestly. but some of those rock solid ones. I was more a fan of the What Hit Wonders, though. If there was anybody that made the top 20, it was that. Aside from like Tom Petty and Eagles, stuff like that, everybody loves those guys, right? So yeah,
No, that's awesome.
it's
Now,
too tough.
oh, that's great. Now, before I forget, Jason actually had another question, which I think is worth asking. This is going back to racing for a second. As far as sim racing, do you have a favorite and least favorite track on the iRacing service or
Well,
any sim race? Real life sim racing, whatever.
yeah, I got you there. Yeah. So, well, my one of my favorites has to be New Hampshire, just because I do so well there, right? And I three-peated last season. I hope I can keep it up. And I felt like I had a chance to win in our first season, but I ended up with a pit stop penalty and stuff.
Oh,
They're similar to somebody else last year, and but I think my favorite tracks are some of the road courses like Mossport and or Mooseport, um, Laguna Seca. I like those. I like challenging tracks. I like elevation changes and speed. So those two have it. Watkins Glen, everybody loves that too. The least favorite track um, is just anywhere where I totally suck every time. It doesn't come to mind, but it's probably like 90% of the rest of the tracks. Like I just can't seem to get a grip on certain things. I don't, even though this is my only hobby and it's my favorite thing to do with my free time, I just don't ever get to do it that much. So I'm usually eking in just enough practice for Lionheart, and it's never enough compared to all the other guys who get to put in tons. And then there's those guys, they just pop in like Sage and Ryan Otis and Adam Blocker. These guys just keep coming at it every week. They don't need practice. They just kick butt every time. But I need more, um, so I can have more favorite tracks.
oh no. But yeah, man. I mean, gosh, I have to say though, for what you're saying about that, you did win retro at Indy, which I think that's anything anyone wishes to win at.
It's a
So
good one.
you've done a lot of winning. So I
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
give you kudos for that because
yeah. I'm
you've already
sure.
done a lot.
There's a couple of guys that didn't care for that particular day. I I I want to win Indy when it's not a result of a couple of guys getting together, and um, I think it was Jason and Big Joe, got together, and that I think I was running fourth or fifth, and I was able to squeeze through. It made for some really good broadcasting and a nice moment overall, but it didn't feel like an official win. So I'm still kind of hoping. I'm hoping to get one.
Oh, I have no doubt you will. Now, You're wearing one of those hats that I love so much today, but I have to ask, you are probably the most dapper dressed driver in this league. Where did you get this sense of style from, man? Because anytime I see you, you have these cool clothes.
I get comments. I wouldn't say they're always compliments, but I get comments every so often, right? Like everything, my shoes always match my hat, and I do all that kind of stuff. I don't know why I do it. I think I wear the hat because, you know, I I have hair, but I don't have as much as I used to. So and these hats are pretty stylish. So I wear them, and I like wearing a dinner jacket out to dinner and stuff when I can, just because I grew up with nothing, and I just kind of like to feel like I've accomplished something, I guess. So just kind of translated into learning a little bit about what goes with what, and trying to pick things that suit each other. It's That's about it. But most days you find me working at home in pajama pants and a t-shirt that I sleep in. So I don't know. It's just if I know that I'm going to be headed out somewhere, I'll try to do something different. But
That's great, man. Now, the last question I typically ask is your racing number. You obviously run the number 9. Where
yeah,
did that come from? Why do you end up choosing it?
Rick Mears rookie year, man, and that's I think that was when he won Indy '79, and he ran that number 9, and that's been the number I wanted forever. Whenever I started with Lionheart, though, that number was taken, and by someone who I like quite a bit, but he ended up leaving the league, and but I took 29 when I first joined Lionheart because that's Kevin Harvick's number, and he's from Bakersfield. So, but yeah, number 9, and now that I've got it, I don't want to let it go. It's good. Hopefully,
That,
it brings me as much luck as it did him for all that. Eventually, maybe someday.
man, that's so cool. Well, hey, listen, this has been absolutely amazing, Dustin. Thank you so much for coming on. And before we go here, do you have any like shout outs you want to make? Anything?
You know what? Just man, my family has always been pretty supportive. My friends don't understand what I do, but they give me my space, and we try to schedule our get-togethers around here based on my race nights. And but everybody who is watching this and I'm teammates with or chat with, man, I love and respect you guys so much. And same goes for folks like you, Mark. I appreciate you asking me to do this, and you've been rock solid. I'm gonna spin this a little bit. I'm gonna tell you that people think the world of you. Like you've always got this great attitude and this great spirit, and you're able to keep it together. And I try to pride myself on being a nice guy, but I still, I make my mistakes. But you've nailed it, man. So I appreciate it. And yeah, Lionheart, George, the admin team that goes to all the trouble every week. Kinsella, who puts our sets together. I mean, that guy, everybody's just putting in so much time and effort. I feel like a stooge for just showing up and racing. So I just want to thank everybody in Lionheart for making my hobby that much better. I put it out there in Discord a while back that I was happily going to send out some Taffy Chews, some Dewars to all the different race teams if they just wanted to get in touch, and it's got nothing to do with anything other than showing my appreciation for this group of guys that really make this league fun, make my hobby fun. So I'm hoping they still reach out. I've only had a couple of people, so uh, hit me up, guys, if you're hungry for some good taffy.
Oh, no kidding. Well, Dustin, you're an absolute class act. This has been amazing, and think we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching the DMLC Racing Channel. I'm Mark Cohn. You have been watching Dustin Wardlow, the Heart of Lionheart. Have a very good rest of your evening now.